Lechi lach to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha to a place you do not know.
Right.
And take it away.
Thank you so much. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to our VFI Educates. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. And as you know, as I mentioned 2 days ago, I was totally not sure that Steve, Ilana, and myself will not be all alone this evening. So I'm really happy that you came, and I hope you will not regret. I will start sharing my screen in a minute. I just want to welcome a few people which I don't think I ever saw before. I can see some new faces and some new names because the cameras are off. So I'm so happy to see you all here, and you're welcome to join us for our, as you said, unusual topic of following the footsteps of Jesus in the Galilee. So just last thing I want to say before I start sharing my screen is that if you think of it, Jesus was Jewish. He was 100% Jewish. He might be even a son of a rabbi. And he had no idea whatsoever that he is the founder of Christianity. I mean, seriously, if you think about it, Jesus was born, raised, and passed away as a Jew, having no idea whatsoever of an existence of a brand new religion called Christianity. This one was born later by his disciples. And so we are going to talk about Jesus the Jew. That's it. Obviously, we will be visiting some sites which became very important, crucial for Christians, but that's maybe because, well, I don't know, but he himself was Jewish. And so each time I mention his name, we have to remember that his original name, he did not speak English. So in English, we say Jesus, and this is the name, we all use. But he did not speak English. He spoke Hebrew, Aramaic, and maybe Greek. So his Jewish name, and that's the only one he had, was Yeshua. Now, Yeshua means salvation. That's it. And we have a very, very famous Yeshua, which is a totally different one, which came earlier, and this is Joshua bin Nun. Joshua bin Nun, the one who replaced Moses and conquered the Promised Land. So Joshua bin Nun, Yehoshua bin Nun, has exactly the same first name as Yeshua, later to become Jesus. So we will be talking about this Jew, who is probably the third famous Jew ever. First I would say would be Abraham. Second would be Moses, or maybe Moses first and Abraham. I'm not sure. But anyhow, we have Moses and Abraham, and then we have Yeshua. So let's talk about him. I will start sharing my screen. Yep. Well, we don't need this. We need that. And here we go. Can you see my screen following the footsteps off in the Galilee? Yay, amazing. Okay, so yes, I forgot to introduce myself. For those who are here for the first time, I am Julie Newman. I'm a tour guide in Israel. Normally, I'm a tour guide, like in reality, for the last 71 episodes, I'm a tour guide in the virtual space. So we will be walking and talking around the Galilee. Here you have the general areas which we'll be visiting: Nazareth, Cana in the Galilee, Mount Tabor, and a few locations around the Sea of Galilee. All of them are beautiful. All of them are worth visiting, and donations are appreciated as usual. So before we start walking around different churches, I just wanted to share a few photos. I made this during the day. You can see some anemones, my favorite flowers, in the snow. The anemones really look sad, and that's for a good reason. I mean, they were expecting spring, and then all of a sudden they have the snow. But don't worry about them. The snow will melt within a day or two. These photos were taken today in a forest called Biria, which is right next to Tzfat in Upper Galilee. So these are the anemones, and this is a pine tree. And this is, of course, a shkedia, an almond tree, my favorite, the same one I have behind me. Well, not the same tree, no, but the same type of tree. And finally, this is my husband. His name is Ido, and he's taking a little nap on the snow. These photos, I believe, are even better. They were not taken by myself, by my friends and colleagues. So the one on the right is a deep, heavy snow, real heavy snow in the northern part of the Golan Heights in a kibbutz called Merom Golan, okay, the one with the horse. Right in the middle, this is amazing. I never saw snow in this area. I don't know if you can recognize. Does anybody recognize? We've been there virtually. We've been there in reality with some of you. Can you recognize? Herodian. Yes, Alvin, exactly. Hi, good to see you. So this is Herodian covered by snow for the first, well, I never heard of Herodian being in the snow. And here on the left, you can see a poor camel, very unhappy camel, which is standing in Yatir. It's an area which is a bit east from Beersheba. Okay, so the camel is not supposed to walk on the snow. And again, the camel is waiting for a few hours. Actually, the snow already melted. So don't worry about the camel. This photo was taken this morning. So enough with the snow. And here we are, just to get us all oriented where we are. So here at the bottom, well, here, I hope you can see my, wait a minute, annotation. Yep, here, this is Tel Aviv, okay? Pamela, you are in here, okay? This is Tel Aviv. And the Galilee is the northern area of Israel, which is more or less in between these two red lines, okay? So the lower red line, this is more or less the valley of Jezreel. And the upper red line is more or less road number 85 between Akko and Safed. Okay, this is the area, including the Lake Kinneret or the Sea of Galilee. And we are going to tour in between. Okay, this is the lower Galilee, the area which is immediately north from the upper red line. This is the upper Galilee. Okay. Now, if we want to take a closer look at the Galilee, so now you're looking at the lower Galilee region, and we will start at Nazareth, here it is, and then we will visit Farkana and Mount Tabor, and then we will be touring around the Sea of Galilee, which is the most beautiful part of course. Well, let's start from the beginning. Everything starts with, well, this picture. Actually, another reason for us, I believe, to be interested in Christianity and history of Christianity is the fact that the most amazing paintings, the most famous paintings, but the most amazing artists were made by Christian artists, and so the topics are Christian. So I believe quite a few of you are familiar with this beautiful picture, truly one of the most famous paintings ever made, a painting by Leonardo da Vinci. And what we see here is the Annunciation. The Annunciation, this is the minute when this young gentleman on the left, you see that he has wings, which means that he is an angel, okay? He is talking to a young, beautiful woman here on the right. And this is the very moment when Angel Gabriel announces Virgin Mary, a young girl. Her name was Miriam, okay? She was Jewish, of course. So her name was Miriam. Later, it became transformed to Mary. And this is the very moment when he announces her that she will conceive and she will give birth to the Son of God, the Savior. All right, here we have the specific phrases from the Gospel according to Luke. It's not that crucial. What is important is This is the very, very beginning of everything, because this is the first time when the future birth of Jesus is announced, and she knows that she's going to become a mother, even though she's not married, which is very problematic, of course. And this is the very moment when she conceives, okay? If you ever ask yourself how and when, how can you get pregnant if you're not, well, forget marriage, but, you are a virgin. So this is the exact specific second, okay? If you ask Christians, this is the moment when she became pregnant, okay, by the word. All right, very convenient. Okay, so where did it happen? It happened right here in Nazareth. This is the facade of a very, very modern, very famous, huge, amazing church, which is called the Church of Annunciation, because according to the Catholic version, this is exactly the spot where, the events took place. As you can see, I wrote here the Catholic Church of Annunciation, which suggests that we have more than one Church of Annunciation. Okay, so, we read the Gospels. I mean, the Christians all over the world, they read the same Gospels, but unfortunately, there is no GPS location in the Gospels. And therefore, we all know that it happened in Nazareth, but where exactly? This is a different topic. Okay, so the Catholic Church of Annunciation looks like that. It was built by an Israeli Jewish company, very famous, which exists to our days, called Solel Bonet. Okay, I guess you might have even heard of this. This is the company which is actually responsible for most of the construction in Israel during the last 50, 60 years in a row. And they built the Church of Annunciation, a Jewish company building a Catholic church in Nazareth. Wonderful. That's what it looks like. So this is the facade. And if we enter, so this is what we see. This is the grotto. This is the holiest of the holy of the Church of Annunciation. And what we see here is basically a cave. Okay, we can see a cave, we can see pillars here, we can see a fraction of the wall here, we can see an altar. Right, this is all around it. What we have to focus on as we visit the church is the cave, because, well, today it is a cave because it's down there. But as you know, when we talk about history, when we talk about archaeology, whatever is lower is older, right? This is the general rule. And so here it is lower because it is ancient. I mean, we are standing on the present day level, while this is the level of ancient Nazareth, as it was known by the Jews who lived there 2,000 years ago. And this is believed to be the house of Mary. And this is believed to be the location of the Annunciation. And therefore, this is believed to be the spot where Mary became pregnant with Jesus. Okay, so just imagine for a sec that you're a Christian, and ever since you remember yourself, basically, you read the Gospels, you go to Sunday school, you know all about, and then all of a sudden you are here, you see the spot where it happened. So there are not that many things which are more moving and more amazing and more like, well, I don't have the words for Christians than visiting this site. So, even if you're a Christian, I think you should be familiar with it. Now we go to the second floor, and well, I know this is not the best photo, but again, I could not make a better photo because now it's closed because of the pandemic. And so this is the second floor, and it's on the walls all around it, there are different icons dedicated to Mary and her son. And these are the presents. This is the offerings made by the various Catholic communities from all over the world for the inauguration of the church, which took place in 1969. So we have different icons from different parts of the world, while here, right in the center, there is a glass floor, there is an opening, and that opening is right above the cave. So when there are huge groups, huge masses, high holy days, whatever, So the Mass will take place up here. There is the altar right in front of it. And people will be standing and praying on top of this cave, which is actually the holiest of the holy, but it is very smooth. This is what you see in front of you as the Mass is proceeding. You can see Jesus in red and St. Peter and the Holy Spirit, which looks like a dove, as you know. And on your left-hand side, you see this is the gift. Okay, this is the icon, which was donated by Japan. And if you look at it, well, this is Mary, and this is her little son, okay, Yehoshua, and they look Japanese. Now, it's not because the Japanese thought that Miriam from Nazareth was Japanese, okay, but that's because the Japanese said, well, we know that people, that humanity was made according to the God, like Betzelmo Bedmuto. Oh my God, forgot the exact phrase, but when God created Adam and Eve, they made him look as himself, right? This is the book of Genesis. So in his image, exactly. Thank you. I'm not sure, Pamela, was that you? Okay. God created Adam and Eve in his image. And so if Japanese are created in the image of God, according to the book of Genesis, so God should look like them, right? There is pure logic in it. And so you can see Miriam looking like a Japanese woman wearing a kimono. All right, in the same complex, literally next door, I mean, we walk like 300 steps and we make it to another church, which is known as the Church of St. Joseph, or the House of the Holy Family. Okay, we enter the church. Here it is. This church was built in the 19th century and then renovated in the 20th century by Polish soldiers who spent some time in the land of Israel during the war. Okay, totally different story. But this is what the church looks like today. And according to the tradition, this is the house of the Holy Family. Okay, for those who are not really familiar with the history of the family, so it goes like that. Miriam, a young girl, was announced that she will have a son, and that happened in Nazareth, according to the Catholics, in the Church of Annunciation, which we just visited. And then they had to make all the way to Bethlehem. And then Jesus was born in Bethlehem. And then the Holy Family, this is what they're called, had to escape, and they moved to Egypt. And then they came back from Egypt, and they came back to, well, where? So according to the Catholics, they came back to here, exactly to this spot. I mean, now we are standing in this Church of the Holy Family, which is located where the house of the family used to be. In other words, this is exactly where Jesus was a young boy, and then a teenager, and then a man. This is where he lived for 30 years in a row. Okay, this is quite amazing. Can we prove it, by the way? No, definitely not. But we can definitely tell that this is a Jewish town which existed 2,000 years ago, and this house belonged to a Jewish family. Was it this family or other family? We don't know. But Nazareth was a tiny little village populated by Jews only. Among them, there was Miriam, and there was Joseph. Okay, so now we walk downstairs. We're still in the same church. Okay, we walk downstairs here and we make it to the underground level. Again, it is underground today. It was not underground back then. And now this is the crypt of the church. And here we have some, well, we don't really know what it is. You see, it's we have stairs here going down here. It looks like a cistern. Okay, it is definitely a cistern because we can see that plaster. Okay, we know that this is a waterproof plaster. It is sort of a cistern, and it is suggested that it is a mikveh. right? If this is a mikveh, this is great because, mikveh is Jewish. Jews will have mikveh. And if Yosef, the father, was a rabbi, so he definitely had a mikveh. And, well, probably it is not a mikveh, okay? According to present day studies. Why not? Because we can see the mosaic. Okay? This is a mosaic. Okay, this is a mosaic floor, and mikvehs would not have a mosaic floor to them because mikveh, it should be real, real clean and pure. And the mosaics, they will always catch some dirt in between the stones, which make the mosaic. So mikveh should not have a mosaic, and so probably this is not a mikveh, but it is something else. And then there is an altar which is dedicated to the moment when Yosef, the father, was announced by an angel that he should not get rid of Miriam, even though she is pregnant, because she is pregnant for a good reason. Okay, there is such a story in the Gospels as well. So we walk just a little bit through the market, and we make it to a church which has this very weird name, the Church of a Synagogue. Okay, that's because the Gospels tell us that Yeshua, who was Jewish, of course, he went to a synagogue on Shabbat. Okay, it makes perfect sense. I mean, and then he was reading from the Bible, and the Gospels tell us exactly which part of the Bible he was reading. So what you see now on the screen, these are the phrases from the Gospels, okay, which were read by Yeshua in the synagogue. What you see now in the red square, more or less, are the words from the Bible, from the Jewish Bible, from the book of Isaiah. And as you can see, they are almost identical. So yeah, Yeshua was in a synagogue reading the Bible, and the listeners, they were so unhappy about the fact that he declared himself a prophet that they pushed him away, and he had to escape, and he made it to the edge of the hill on which the town is built, and then he walked through them and disappeared. We have a beautiful lookout, a beautiful one, which is called Mount of Precipice, which was believed to be the location where he disappeared. Anyhow, this church, you see, this is the door here, and this is what you see inside. This is a church. It's not a Catholic one. It's a Greek Catholic. It's a different denomination, not that important. But this is believed to be the location of the synagogue where Yeshua was reading the Bible. And so quite a few Christians who would visit Nazareth will walk through the market, and they will be visiting this church, and they will be reading the book of Isaiah. And this is the perfect, perfect connection between Christianity, Judaism, and Yeshua. So after visiting these three churches, I think we deserve some, just walking around the market and getting some souvenirs and getting something to eat. By the way, in Nazareth, most visitors will focus on Christian topics, but we also have special food tours for Israelis. There's so many just great things to eat and best spices, and you could just walk around and taste things and look at churches and all together. So right now Nazareth is abandoned. It's like empty. The photos you're looking at were taken before COVID. Now there's nothing. Everything is shut down. So this is the past, and I hope this is future as well. We walk through the market, and we make it to another church which has, as you can see, 3 different names. This is what it looks like from outside. And now we get through this gate, and we are facing the facade, which is right in front of you. And now we're getting indoors. This is beautiful church. And this one is very different from the first one we visited, because if the first one was Catholic, this one is Greek Orthodox. And we can tell that this is Greek Orthodox church. I mean, I can tell you and then you will probably believe. But otherwise, if you just walk into a church and you don't know if it's Greek, Catholic, Greek Orthodox, what is it? Okay. So then you have to look east. 99% of the cases that will be east. Okay. And if you see a beautiful wall, okay, right here, you can see a beautiful wall. You do not see an altar. That means that this is a Greek Orthodox church, because the Greek Orthodox, they hide their altar. You're not supposed to see this holy place, okay? So this is a beautiful wall, which is called iconostasis, and behind there is the altar. But it's just a beautiful decoration with different icons, and so this is what the church looks like. And the most important part of the church is here in front of you. You walk downstairs. This is a corridor which was built by the Crusaders, meaning some 900 years ago, and then it was renovated later. And you walk downstairs straight forward as this person here, and then you see a tiny little bit of water, okay, down here just below the icon. And on this icon you see exactly the same story you saw before. I mean, you can see Angel Gabriel announcing Virgin Mary. Why? Because according to the Catholics, the location of Annunciation was in the first church. According to the Greek Orthodox, the place of Annunciation is right here. Okay? Who can tell? Anyhow, this is a well. There is still a little bit of water down there. It's believed to be holy water. It's believed to be healing water. This water is so important. I mean, when you walk in there, well, not to you, okay, but pilgrims, you know, Greek Orthodox, Russian, Ukrainian, Romania, whatever, pilgrims, they would normally walk in with an empty bottle of water, and then they will fill that bottle of water from that spring. And you know, this is amazing, very cheap, by the way, but it is amazing souvenir. I mean, you literally bring the water from Nazareth, the same water from the same spring which was used by Mary and Yosef and Yehoshua, and you know, this is amazing. So, well, these are the most important sites in Nazareth. Actually, there are quite a few other churches, of course. Nazareth is the biggest Arab town in Israel, Arab city in Israel today. Better to say, we're talking about some 80,000 Arabs living in Nazareth. Most of them are Muslim, but there are also lots of Christian Arabs in Nazareth, which belong to different Christian denominations. And since the majority are Muslim, as I said, so we have so many mosques. I mean, we can have Christian tour of Nazareth, Muslim tour of Nazareth, tasting tour of Nazareth, and shopping tour of Nazareth. This is an amazing place, but enough is enough. And yeah, just before we move on, this is myself, of course, hiking a few months ago with a friend. You can start hiking from down below here. Okay, this is the dome of the Catholic Church of Annunciation. This is where we started, at the very bottom of the little valley. And then you walk a few hundreds of steps, and then you make it to another church, beautiful church. And then you hike a little bit straight forward, like a few hours. And then you make it to Tzipori, which is another great location, another something we will be visiting once upon a time, famous for its mosaics. If you ever heard of the Mona Lisa of the Galilee, so this one, I'm facing the direction of Mona Lisa in Tzipori. Okay, that's in the future. And now we drive like 20, 30 minutes to a little town called Cana. And since we have few Canas in the Bible, so this one is the Cana in the Galilee. This is the Catholic Church of the Wedding, or the First Miracle. And this is a very simple, beautiful, tasty story. I mean, we read in the Gospel according to John that Mary and Joshua, her son, and his brothers were invited to a wedding in the Cana in the Galilee. They made it to the wedding. It was all good. And then all of a sudden, the groom realized that they ran out of wine. Now, what wedding could it possibly be with no wine? And so Mary addresses her son, and he said, hey, go ahead and help them. And he was reluctant, but eventually he agreed. And so he made a miracle. And this is the first miracle ever made by Joshua. And that was transferring water into wine. Great, right? So now we have this Catholic Church, which is believed to be located exactly where that wedding took place. This is what it looks like from outside. This is what it looks like from inside. This is a Catholic church, so you can see the altar. On top of, like above the altar, you do not see much. So here, that's what you see above the altar. And this is a picture which describes a wedding, okay? The same wedding where he made wine. On top of this table, you see there's some weird sort of a black sheet, maybe. This one, it represents the chuppah, okay? Again, we're talking about a Jewish town of Cana in the Galilee. We're talking about a Jewish wedding. So, okay, we need a chuppah. Here it is. And since people are very happy about this miracle and so many people come and visit this place and they want to take a souvenir with them. So all over Israel, we have these bottles of red wine, which is, as you can see, called Cana wedding wine. It has nothing to do with Cana. It's not produced in Cana. This particular one has 0% alcohol, so it's not even a wine. But anyhow, you know, souvenir is a souvenir. And so the souvenir shops in Cana, they make a lot of money and people drink a lot of wine. Everybody's happy. So if this is the Catholic Church, so there is definitely an Orthodox one, which we will see in a minute. When we walk downstairs into the grotto of this church, there are two interesting things here. One, well, this is not the inscription, but this is what the inscription looks like. You can see the inscription in the church. And this is a Jewish Aramaic inscription. As you can see, we have the translation into English. This is an inscription which was written by Jews for a Jew who apparently donated the mosaic. So probably we're talking about a synagogue here. So a church on top of a synagogue. Again, great connection. And here on the left, this is, well, again, the archaeologists are not sure what is it. I mean, it's definitely some sort of a vessel, okay? It is some sort of a stone-made jar, let's call it. They're not sure what was it used for, okay? But the description of the transformation of the water into wine mentions 6 huge jars of water, which were prepared for the ritual hand washing. And as you know, till our days, Orthodox Jews will do netilat yadayim, right? You have to wash your hands in a special ritual way before you eat. And so that makes perfect sense that in the Jewish wedding, we have so much water, like 6 huge jars of water, and then they were transformed into wine, and then people had plenty of wine. This is the Greek Orthodox Church, which is dedicated to the same wedding and same miracle and same everything, mostly closed to the public. And well, if you ask yourself, what is the distance between the two churches? We are talking about maybe 100 feet, not more than that. Okay, so everybody agreed that the wedding took place in this area. And if we're talking about a big wedding, so, you know, all of them are right. And now we will be driving to this beautiful mount. the most beautiful, the most biblical, with Kedia, with the almond tree here in front. A photo taken a few days ago by a former student of mine from Kfar Tabor. Her name is Vered Rogers. And by the way, she is married to a Christian. And they live at the footsteps of Mount Tabor. And up here, you can see a tiny little something. And this is the something we will be visiting soon. And this is the Catholic Church of Transfiguration. Okay, this is one of the most famous sites. Probably whoever drives back and forth around the Galilee, you always see Mount Tabor because it has such a perfect round shape, surrounded by fertile lands and valleys. It just, you can't miss it. And Mount Tabor is the most biblical mount because it has a Christian story to it, and it has a perfectly Jewish story to it. So let's start with the perfectly Jewish story because it happened earlier. And that's the story of the battle between Barak ben Avinoam and Prophet Deborah when they were fighting against the army of Yavin, the king of Chatzor, and the commander of this army was Sisra. Okay, this is one of the most known stories in the Old Testament. To make the long story short, Sisra lost. He had to escape. He escaped. He was invited by a woman to hide in her tent. The name of that woman was Yael. And ever since, Yael became a very popular Jewish name. As you know, even my daughter is called Yael, not because of that, but anyhow. And the army of Barak ben Avinoam and Prophet Deborah, they gathered on top of the mount up here, because we don't really see it from this angle, but it is a round-shaped mount, and on top of it, it is flat. So it's a great place to gather your forces, and then when needed, you make it downhill as fast as possible, while the battle itself took place at the footsteps in a valley called Sulot. So this is the biblical Old Testament story. And now let's drive uphill. You see, this is a very difficult winding. This is a real snake path, snake road. It looks a little bit like the snake path on Masada, but this is much, much longer. And you can't even drive your bus up here because the curves are too sharp. So it's for private cars and minibuses only. And you drive all the way up there, up to the very top. You drive through this gate. It's called the Gate of the Winds, and it is very windy up there indeed. And then you pass this little Greek Orthodox church, and finally you make it to this big and beautiful Catholic Church of Transfiguration. And this is the one which you can actually see from basically all over the place. Okay, so we will enter this one in a minute, and this is the structure which you saw on the previous slide. So we are on the very top of Mount Tabor. It is about 580 meters above sea level, which is about 1,700 feet above sea level. A very typical mount hill for the Lower Galilee, surrounded by the very fertile lands and Moshavim and Kibbutzim, and well, this is Ramat Yisachar towards the Sea of Galilee, which is hidden somewhere up there. So let's walk towards the church. Now we are facing the church, and now we got closer. This is what the facade looks like. This church is built one on top of the other, as usual. Which means that now we are facing a church which was built by a very famous Italian Catholic architect, Antonio Berluzzi, who is responsible for dozens of Catholic churches around Israel. But this church, which was inaugurated in 1924, is built on top of a Crusader period church, which is built on top of a Byzantine period church. So the location is here for well, 1500 years at least, while this church is relatively new. And you see on top of the facade, we have two like watchtowers maybe, okay? And they are here because they remind us of the story which is told in the Bible, which happened here. Okay, we will see that story in a minute. But right now, when we enter the church, so on our right-hand side here, there is a little chapel, and this is the decoration of the chapel. And on the left-hand side, there is another chapel with this decoration to it. Okay, and both of them have nothing to do with Christianity. Both of them have to do with Judaism, okay, with the Old Testament. So could you guess, what do we see here? Who is this? What story of the Bible, of the Tanakh is here? Can anybody recognize this person?
Looks
this
like
choir?
looks like Moshe with the column of fire.
Almost. Okay, this is Prophet Elijah. This is supposed to be Prophet Elijah, Eliyahu Navi. And this is the moment when he made the offering on Mount Carmel. There was this competition between him and the prophets of the Baal, and they wanted to prove who is the real God. And so the fire came from heaven and consumed the offering. So this is Prophet Elijah. And the other one might be easier to recognize. Who is the other one? Okay. The other one is supposed to be Moses. So these are the two little chapels, one dedicated to Prophet Elijah and the other one is dedicated to Moses. And that's because when we read the New Testament, okay, this is the description. You don't have to read the whole thing. But to make the long story short, Yahushua ascended to a high mount with just 3 of his disciples, and then there was a cloud which came from heavens and covered them, and then he was talking to Moses and to Elijah, and then he became different. He transfigured. He was shining. This is the moment which is when, according to the Christian understanding of the event, his divine self took over his human self. This is the moment of transfiguration, and this is when he became ready to be sacrificed, to be crucified, to die, and to resurrect. This is the event of the transfiguration, and here he was talking to Eliyahu Hanavi and Moshe. Okay? It's a beautiful golden mosaic, relatively new, well, less than 100 years old, golden, shining. The church is just amazing. I mean, no matter what you believe, it is a piece of art. I mean, you should really visit this church just to enjoy the beauty. Okay, a few more photos from the inside of the church. This is the part you saw before, just above the altar, and here it is all mosaics and different angels and different events. And well, we drive downhill towards the Sea of Galilee. As you can see, there are quite a few stars here. There's so many things worth visiting around the Sea of Galilee, and there's even more than that. Okay, so first of all, the Sea of Galilee itself. I mean, it is the one and the only and the best and the prettiest, our Sea of Galilee, or the Lake Kinneret. So Magdala, we've been to Magdala on one of the virtual tours on location. This is a synagogue. Would you believe it? I mean, this is a synagogue which is 2,000 years old, which was there when Josephus Flavius and Yeshua and Mary of Magdalene were walking and acting. This is a synagogue which was there when the temple still existed in Jerusalem. So this is the general view, and this is a very special Magdala stone. This is a different topic. And the ancient boat in Kibbutz Ginusar. Again, we don't know whose boat that was. I mean, if you ask a devoted Christian, so he will tell you, yeah, this is the boat which was used by Jesus. But frankly, who can tell? But it is definitely a boat which was found sank at the bottom of the Sea of Galilee, and this boat was used by somebody 2,000 years ago. Well, we don't have the time to watch the video, but it is highly recommended for you. Just go on YouTube later and watch a short video. Just type the ancient boat from the Galilee, the boat of Jesus, whatever, and you will find a video about how it was found, how it was restored. It's amazing. So it is in Kibbutz Ginostar. This is the museum inside which there is this boat which sailed 2,000 years ago. And Mount of Beatitudes, one of the fundamental sermons, one of the fundamental prayers in Christianity. The Church of Beatitudes, Catholic Church by the same architect, Antonio Berluzzi, with a beautiful garden around it and the most beautiful view. I mean, again, this is one of these places, no matter what you believe or you don't believe, it's just a great place to look at the Galilee, at the Sea of Galilee. This is just the view from behind this church. That's what it looks like. Again, the golden mosaic of the dome from inside. This is a very special church, by the way, because normally you enter a church, you walk straight forward, you're facing the altar, you pray. In this case, you are facing the altar, but you're not supposed to walk straight forward. You're supposed to walk around the altar, and then you can enjoy the view from the windows, which are all around you. Very, very special place. The Church of Multiplication of Loaves of Fishes. We just talked about the miracle when water was transformed into wine. Now, in this case, he had 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. That's it. And unfortunately, there were about 5,000 hungry people who came to listen to his preach. So, he had to feed them. And so there was a miracle when the 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread were transformed into enough food for 5,000 people to eat, to be full. And then the leftovers were collected into 12 baskets of leftovers. I mean, that's plenty of food. And now, this mosaic you see in front of you is the mosaic which was made in the 6th century CE, of course. And it is located inside this church, which is a brand new Catholic church, which is built on top of a Byzantine period church, which means that we have a church which is about 40 years old, which looks exactly as a church which was 15 centuries old look like. Okay, it's exact replica. So this is the facade. You enter from here and you have this courtyard with a beautiful olive tree, and then you walk into the church and that's what you see in front of you. Very simple, very plain, almost nothing Christian here. Okay, very few. And as you walk straight forward, as you normally do, okay, you're facing the altar, and here, right in front of the altar, you can see the mosaic. This 6th century mosaic with bread and fish, and here you can see the rock which is right underneath the altar, rock known as Mensa Christi. And this is believed to be the specific rock where Jesus sat down and made the miracle. How do we know that this is the specific rock? We don't, okay? But this is the tradition. And the beautiful mosaics on both sides of the altar. They're beautiful windows. This is alabaster. This is a semi-transparent stone, which was brought from Egypt. And because you see it's yellowish, I mean, it looks like glass, but it is actually natural stone. So there is special golden, light in this church. And you have to be very, very quiet, like totally quiet. And people sit down there and reflect and meditate. And I don't know, but there is something real special about this church. And then we drive another 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes, and we make it to Capharnaum, which is known as the town of Jesus. You see, I mean, he lived in Nazareth for about 30 years, but then he moved to Capharnaum, to here. And this is where he lived his last 3 years. And these are the most meaningful years of his life. And then from here, he walked to Jerusalem. And then finally, he was crucified and resurrected and everything. So this is what Capharnaum looks from up there, from an aerial view. And the most important parts in Capharnaum are the synagogue. Okay, this open white structure is a synagogue. And this weird looking structure here, the grayish one, which looks like a UFO a little bit, this is a church. Okay, once again, the distance is few hundred steps, okay? Synagogue and church. It doesn't make sense in the beginning, and then you recall, oh yeah, he was Jewish. This is a Jewish town, which is mentioned by Josephus Flavius. And then it's all good. And there was also a beautiful mosaic of a huge peacock. This is a replica of the original mosaic, which was found inside the Byzantine period church, which used to be here. So this is the UFO. Okay, I always think of aliens when I visit the church. It is a Catholic church built about 30 years ago. This is how you walk in it, upstairs. And the idea is to build a church on top of the archaeological finds. So people will be standing up there, not touching, not damaging, but exactly the same spot, okay? And this is the synagogue. This is the restored synagogue from the 4th century CE. And this is what archaeologists believed it originally looked like. It was a huge synagogue, 2 stories, okay, 3 entrances, something very, very impressive. This what the church location looked like in the 20s when the Franciscans started the excavations. You can see ruins of an octagonal building, okay, which is located exactly underneath the modern church. Again, same idea. You see, we have this opening here, we have a glass floor, and as you sit here or stand next to this fence, you look down there, and this is more or less what you see. This is exactly what you see, okay? This is a photo taken from up here through the glass window. And, well, so what is so important about it? This is believed to be, okay, again, believed to be the house of Peter, or Saint Peter, or the favorite disciple of Jesus. And this is believed to be the specific house, the specific room where Yahushua lived for 3 years in a row as a guest in the house of Peter. Well, if you're Jewish, big deal. If you're Christian, better to say if you're Catholic, this is incredible. This is insane. This is a place you want to stay forever. Okay. This is what it looks like from a side view. You see we have walls and this central part. This is the central part here. Again, it is believed to be the room of Yahushua. And something very Jewish for a change. These are the decorations which probably belong to the church, and they were found in situ, on spot. I mean, this is the menorah, right? No doubt about this. This is the menorah. This is probably the Holy Ark, and this is an inscription on a pillar made by, well, this is Hebrew. Chalfo ben Zavdei bar Yochanan, Abed Hadan Amuda, Tila Berkata. Okay, these are the Hebrew letters. It is actually Aramaic, but Aramaic and Hebrew are very similar. And so this is, that basically says, blessed will be Chalfo ben Zavida bar Yochanan. Okay, this is the name of the guy, who donated this pillar. Great. We have no idea who Chalfo ben Zavida bar Yochanan is, probably a wealthy Jew, okay? But we do know that two of the disciples, or the 12 disciples of Joshua, they were sons of Zavida. This is the same name mentioned in the Bible, and we have a large family of fishermen living in Tiberias today having the same last name, which is quite special, I would say. So, you know, just for the sake of the synagogue and this beautiful decoration, it's worth visiting Capernaum, which we should do once upon a time. And then we drive by this beautiful, recently renovated Orthodox church dedicated to the apostles. And finally, we make it to the baptismal site. Well, if you're Jewish, so all you do is either, well, you know, you can go canoeing. This is the Jordan River, right next to the Sea of Galilee. I mean, this is the location where the Jordan River flows out from the Sea of Galilee. You see in this right lower corner, this is the dam. This is the Dgania Dam. This is the dam which actually prevents the overflow of water from the Sea of Galilee into the Jordan River, because if the water will flow down the stream, it will go all the way to the Dead Sea and finally will disappear. Well, we need to store the water in the Sea of Galilee. So very rarely, like once in 10 years, 12 years, depends on the climate, we hear about opening of the Dgania Dam, because the level of the water in the Sea of Galilee, the Lake Kinneret, goes too high. And if we will not open the dam, so then parts of the kibbutzim around the Sea of Galilee can be flooded. So this is the Dgania Dam, but normally, unfortunately, we don't have that much rainfall. And so the dam is closed almost entirely, but a little bit of water does flow down the river, because this area here is used by the Christian pilgrims to do the baptismal ceremony. So if you're a Christian, if you want to be baptized or you want to renew your baptismal, so then you have to purchase or rent the white robes, as you can see here, okay? And then you walk into the water, and then you have a pastor or a priest who will baptize you by the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit. And the other members of your group will be watching you. And right across the stream, there is the horse farm, which belongs to first kibbutz ever, kibbutz Dgania Aleph. So we have pilgrims here, we have horses here, we have catfish inside, sometimes we have ducks, sometimes we have rodents called nutrias all together, and on top of that, we have the best dates ever, okay? It's all in one little site, which is called Yardenit, means Little Jordan, and this is where most Christian groups will finish their tour, because if you get baptized, so then you want to take a shower back at the hotel. So this is the last location for us as well, and we did it. So thank you very much for watching and listening and being patient. So I hope you enjoyed it. I love these places. I guess you could feel it, but I really love them, and I think they're very significant to our history, to our present, to the entire Western history of the world, I would say. So, thank you so much. I will, thank you, Steve. I will stop sharing. Okay, and let's see, what do we have on chat? So, ladies and gentlemen, I will look at the chat, and then, at the same time, if you want to add something or ask or whatever, you're welcome to unmute yourself. Okay, so Stuart asks, is it safe to travel without a guide in Nazareth? Remember being warned not to do so in Jericho, but I'm not sure about Nazareth. Well, it is totally safe to tour Nazareth and Jericho and Bethlehem and any other location in Israel. I cannot think of a location which is unsafe to visit with a tour guide. I don't think such a thing exists. I mean, I do recommend you to use a tour guide, not just because I need work, but also because having a tour guide, you can save a lot of time and you can see places which you will not find otherwise, because everything is on Google today, but at the same time, a local tour guide will be able to tell you and show you more. So, but it is definitely safe. Even more so, I would say, since the local tour guide is likely to be Jewish, okay, and definitely she will be Israeli. So going to Palestinian areas like Jericho, Bethlehem, Jenin, Nablus, etc., and Ramallah, even more so, it is actually better not to have an Israeli tour guide, because the Palestinians will look at you as tourists, basically moving ATMs, while having an Israeli tour guide will add some political tension to it. So it is definitely safe. Krista, hey Krista, good to see you. I've been there, no problem. Nazareth is in Israel, not in the West Bank, sure, of course. Either of these churches rented for weddings? Yes, of course, all of them. Definitely. I mean, every church, I'm not sure it's called rented, but you make an appointment, and they have priests, or if you have a priest you want to have with you. So yes, of course. I mean, all these churches are used for wedding ceremonies by the local communities. The wedding church, the one in Cana, the one with the wine, it is a special church because on top of being used by local Christians, it is also used by Christian tourists, primarily Catholic tourists, to renew their weddings. I mean, I've seen quite a few married couples who are married for like 20, 30, 40, whatever years. They come to Israel as pilgrims, and then they will have a ceremonial wedding in this wedding church in Cana, with the whole ceremony. They have not exactly a chuppah, but something, to remind them of that. And then they will be drinking Cana wine, and then they get a special certificate, which proves that they got married in the wedding church in Cana. It's a great event. I mean, we sometimes there are groups of elderly people who want to do this renewal of wedding, and then the whole day is focused on it. And then they will, the bride and the groom will be dressed as bride and groom. They will bring photographers. It's like a beautiful, beautiful thing. Okay. The Witch of Endor. Oh, okay. Okay, it's a totally different story. Okay, but and it has nothing to do with Christianity, of course. The Witch of Endor is mentioned regarding to Saul, when Saul was fighting against the Philistines on Mount Gilboa. He was not sure whether he will make it or not, and he realized that God is too unhappy about him. He will not support him. So he smuggled from his camp, and he made it to a witch, Ba'alat Ha'ov in Hebrew, to a witch in a village called Endor, which is not far away from Kfar Tavor. And he asked her to bring the soul of Samuel to consult with. And then the soul of Samuel came and talked to him, and Samuel said that you lost it, okay? You will not win the battle. And even though Saul came back and continued fighting, and then he committed the suicide on Mount Gilboa. And Saul was the king who forbade witches, who was actually trying to get rid of them, and eventually he was the one who used the services of a witch of Endor. There is a kibbutz called Endor near Mount Tabor, which is not very far from the archaeological site, which is identified with biblical Endor. Okay.
I think those are all the questions. I think those were all the questions.
Okay, great.
If anyone has anything else?
Well, if anybody has any other questions, so you're welcome to.
I wanted to show you this. This is my son-in-law from Corpus Christi, Texas. He's a minister, and they went there 2 years ago, this coming April, and that's at the Sermon on the Mount location, he said.
Okay, I can see the arches. Yeah. I can recognize the arches, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He took he went with his church group, and he baptized 14 members at the Jordan River. So he's trying to find a photo of it. He can't, for some reason, get on his video at the moment. So.
Okay, so you've heard about Yardenit and Mount of Beatitudes before this. It is great. Okay, remember the TV show Bewitched, Darren's mother-in-law and Dova?
This was in the 1960s. It's just everybody's.
Okay.
It'll strike some memory. That's all.
Well, I'm not familiar with this one, but. Okay, Laura, these are parts of Israel you've never seen before. I guess that's true for most of you. So that was the main reason for me to make this tour for you. So you will see new places which are just special.
Here, he just sent me a picture. There, he's baptizing.
Okay, this is the moment of baptismal, right? And the white robes. I've mentioned.
Right, yeah.
Great, okay, so you have something of it in your family.
Yeah. we got all kinds in our family.
Well, we all Jews, we have all kinds of in our families and our heritage.
We all believe what we enjoy believing, and learn to accept everybody else. It was really good, a very good lecture. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me for these different parts.
He told me you were spot on. Being a minister, I thought, oh no, maybe she'll say something. He said you were spot on, and he thanks you.
Great, thank you.
That was a great presentation, Julia. That really
thank you, Steve. Have you been to any of these places? Have you been to any of these churches, Steve?
I've been there with you.
I have. Yeah.
You've been there with me.
Some of them I recall, but the presentation itself was extremely well balanced. And
yes,
I think it gave us insights that we would have never dreamed of before. And so I really appreciate your effort to put that together. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for giving me that idea. I mean, I would not think about it without you. So that's thank you for for the offer.
Great. You want to mention about next week?
Yeah, I was about to say. So next week, Tuesday will be the presentation about education now and in the future with Dina Cohen with Naamat ladies. That's for sure, God willing. And then Thursday, I'm not yet sure about it because I'm waiting for Sunday to find out if the Bullis Factory will be open for us or not. So if it is open, that's where we go. The Bullis Factory, Machon Ayalon in Rehovot, just next to Weizmann Institute. And if this will not be possible, so we will go somewhere else. And I will let you know Tuesday when are we going Thursday. But I still hope that the Bullis Factory will indeed be open. And then, you know, I don't want to make plans because I really want to stick to this plan. And that will be the last week of February, and then March. I don't yet have the full itinerary for March. I will have it next week, and we will share it with you, of course. But we will have a presentation about plants. Okay, we were already talking about birds. We did not yet talk about plants, and don't think that it's going to be boring because it actually a lot. I can see your face, Ilana. It is not.
I love plants. I was excited.
Oh no, don't be. Okay, well, Ilana,
I'm saying I like plants. I'm looking.
Oh, you like plants? Okay. Well, you should with your name. Anyhow, so we will have a great presentation about. Well, it is about plants in the Bible and plants in real Israeli nature. The way plants appear in the Bible and in reality. And there is also a lot of fun in this presentation. It will be given by Joanna Meisel. She's working for many years in a great place called Neot Kedumim. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's basically a reservation for a park. It does not belong to the National Parks Authority, but it is a park, huge park, dedicated to biblical plants. And some of you might have been there, maybe tree planting. Neot Kedumim, it's halfway between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, not far from Modi'in. Anyhow, it is a great area where you walk around, you see biblical plants, and each plant has a plate with the phrases from the Bible, the references, the uses, what is it, what was it used for. So Joanna worked there for many years, so she's the best authority about biblical plants and the ways they were utilized, and she also has a great sense of humor. So this is one of the topics we will be discussing. We will have a presentation about street art and graffiti in Tel Aviv by Stav. She's a great tour guide, and she works for Tel Aviv Center of Art. And she's, you will be walking down the streets of Tel Aviv, and you will look at different things comparing to what you normally like. When I walk down the street, I talk about history and people, and she's talking about art. Okay, I mean, you will be walking maybe the same street you walked before, but you will be looking at different things. So I'm sure you will enjoy this presentation. So we have botany, we have street art, we have security issues in the West Bank, and we have thousands of caves, and we have the Lebanese border with Rosh Hanikra and a few other places, and probably we will go to Shiloh as well. Shiloh is the place where the Ark of Covenant spent the first 400 years or so before it moved to Jerusalem. So, okay, we have quite a few things to do next month, and I hope I will have the final itinerary next week. Yeah, probably I will have it.
Great. I want to thank our non-American attendees. I know we have at least one Canadian with us today, and Krista from Germany was on, and maybe our friend from Netherlands, I didn't notice, and probably some others. If you have friends abroad that might be interested in the series, definitely invite them. As long as they got a computer, they can get on and watch us. So thanks for attending.